someone thinks about weight training, they would typically think, okay, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to smash the weights, I'm going to keep going until I get the lactic acid buildup, they get super sore, multiple exercises on one muscle group, compound and isolation, so big exercises and small exercises. Um, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to smash them up and then I'm going to leave. So you basically say that that isn't what strength is about. Strength, you shouldn't feel fatigue.
It's a very unhealthy exercise, and it's not giving people what they want. Many of those people are not strong.
The
And
people who get big muscles, you mean, like bodybuilder
well, a lot,
types.
yeah, you get big muscles by training so hard, the muscles fatigue and they hurt.
Mm,
And it takes you 2 to 3 days, usually 3 days, to recover. People are not disciplined enough to wait 3 days. So before they're recovered, they do the weight the weight workout again.
yeah, that's right.
Um, and it forces the muscles to get bigger. And if you're an endurance athlete, or if you're somebody who doesn't want big muscles, that's the worst thing you can do.
Oh,
For an endurance
fatigue is the
athlete,
worst thing.
yeah,
Like
the
if you want
fatigue
to keep your
is,
muscles small.
yeah, it's like training at a very high heart rate every day and you're fatigued.
Mm,
Not a healthy approach. Um, um, if you're a bodybuilder and you're going to compete in bodybuilding and you want to show off all your big muscles. I mean, some people think that's disgusting, but who am I to judge?
yeah.
Um,
Some people like it, yeah.
you're forcing your muscles to go into this state of hypertrophy where they get bigger and bigger, but they're not stronger and stronger. And the best way to look at it is if you're familiar with other sports, think of the Olympic weightlifters.
Hmm.
The Olympic weightlifters are unique in that, um, well, Olympic weightlifters have to consider their body weight because if they weigh more, they move up to the next category where there are bigger people who can overlift them. So they want to stay at the lower weight.
Yeah.
And so they train in a way where their muscles don't get big and they don't gain weight.
Wow.
That's
Okay.
exactly
Yes.
what most people should be doing.
So
So
for
what they're
them,
doing,
fatigue is a no-no in their
correct,
training.
correct. So let me answer the question that people have. What do I do? Okay, here's what you do. You determine your capability. You determine your capability in terms of your current level of strength. How much weight can you lift? And in weightlifting circles and physiology, we talk about a one-time lift. How much weight can you lift one time? If you're familiar with that and you've done that, you often want to do it with a coach by your side so you don't get hurt. But if you're familiar with the one-time lift, then you take 80% of your one-time lift, and that's your daily weight for strength training for what I'm talking about here. And you take that amount of weight, and let's say it's 50 pounds, just to say it's 50 pounds as an example, um, then you've got this 50-pound weight, and your workout for the day begins with lifting that 50 pounds. Maybe you do some half squats. Maybe you lift it or you squat or both 6 times. And then you put the weight down. And now you wait 3 minutes, 3 full minutes by the clock. That gives your muscle a chance to recover from what you just did, which isn't going to feel like much. And then you can lift it again. And you can lift it an hour later. You can lift it 2, 3 hours later. In the course of a day, maybe you lift it, you do 6 repetitions. Maybe you do that several times.
And you do it every day?
You can do it anytime you want, as
Wow.
long as
So
you
that's
lift
great.
that amount of weight and you spend 3 minutes in between sets. So you could lift, you can do those sets, you can do, 5 or 10 of those sets a day. If you have a weight on the floor
Hmm.
in your office or in your living room, every time you walk by, lift it up, do 6 squats, and and then if you do it again, just make sure you've waited 3 minutes. You can do it every day. You can do it
Every day,
every
10 times a
week,
day. How
sure, whatever you
that's
want to do.
amazing. I love this.
Um,
You always come out with these ways to completely transform the way someone looks at fitness because,
well,
you know,
it's very natural.
it's very natural. And so we would be taught. So when I learned fitness, I learned that with strength training, you do, I think it's 1 to 6 repetitions or something like that. Let's say 3 to 4 sets and then leave it. And usually people are taught to not train the same muscle group, one day after another. But what you're basically saying is for hypertrophy training, like if you're fatiguing your muscle, then yeah, of course you need to recover because they're damaged in between and they're weak. But with proper strength training, you shouldn't need that recovery.
Correct, because you
Three
don't
minutes
fatigue.
is all you need.
You don't fatigue. And so the next morning you're not sore. If the next morning you do get sore, then your weight was too heavy, or you didn't
Interesting.
understand what 3 minutes was.
So any fatigue, you're like, no, no to any fatigue, like avoid
Yeah.
any fatigue,
When in
any
doubt,
soreness.
cut back on the weights a little bit. As you get strong, you'll be able to add more weight. But, six, repetitions, should feel fairly easy.
Hmm.
You could easily do 7, you can easily do 8. By 9, it's a little hard. By 10, you're struggling a little bit, but you don't want to go there. 6 or less. If you want to do
Right.
2 or 3, that's fine too. But and so the big question is, well, if I'm lifting this weight off the ground and doing 6 squats, what muscles am I using? You're using all the muscles in the body because there's a gravitational stress. Even if you just lift, if you have a bar on the ground, you lift it up and you're letting it hang below you, you're letting it hang down, you're holding it, and you're doing some half squats. You don't have to do full squats. I don't recommend anybody do full squats unless um, they're trained to do that. Um, because the half squat will give you the same benefit as the full squat.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
or
Yeah.
even a quarter squat in the beginning, if you're not used to doing a half squat, quarter squat, you don't need to do much.
Hmm.
You can pick that weight up and walk across the room a couple of times and put it down. That's quite sufficient.
So when you say 80% of one rep max, you've kind of described how that feels. So it should feel like you can do more than six, let's say, but but by let's say the ninth and the eighth, the ninth, you're starting to think, okay, this is maybe a bit too heavy. I'm going to put it down. So basically, the six, you kind of stop. You don't want to take it to failure. You're basically saying,
Exactly.
yeah.
Don't want to go close to failure.
Mm,
So 6 is a good number. 5, if 5 feels okay,
mm,
5 is excuse me, is perfectly fine.
mm,
3 or 4 in the beginning, be very conservative because the problem many people have is they're not familiar with the motions they're going through.
mm.
And if you don't know how to pick something up off the floor, get some help.
So would you say that's the case for someone if they like, because obviously lifting heavy, like 80% of one rep max, the case of injury is the chance of injury is higher. So your way of combating that is basically you need to get used to the movement first.
Yeah, get used to the movement. And I really like what used to be called broomstick workouts. I don't know if they still call
Not
them
heard of
that.
it. No, no, go
Really.
on.
So a broomstick workout is a where you have um, a broomstick. You have a bar, there's no weight on it. Of course, the bars are, I don't know what they weigh, 20 pounds, some of them.
Mm.
Um, and you lift the bar like you're lifting weights, and you pick it up from the floor and you lift it, and you put it over your head and whatever you want to do. You go through the motions without the weight.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, if you're 50 years old and you haven't worked out much and you're a runner, um, you haven't done much. You've kind of moved your legs, and your arms have been swinging, but moving your arm, um, or picking something up and doing a half squat is almost foreign to you. So make sure you can do that
Mm.
easily.
So
And
someone would
again,
need
you
to
might,
practice first before
yeah,
they
you
lift heavier.
do that a few times
Yeah.
before you start adding weight. And if you're not sure, um, find a strength training person. Just don't let him or her tell you, no, you don't want to do broomstick workouts. That's for sissies. You need to biomechanically be sound.
Right.
Um, and again, if you're not sure, put you know, be conservative. And if you want, put the weight on a table, on a low table. So you walk up to it. Now you don't have to really bend down or squat down. You're just gonna pick this thing up and hold it close to you. Um, and do a quarter squat. Do, you know, a couple of them or whatever, and gradually get into a routine where you're at that about that 80% level, where 6 reps doesn't feel like too much. You're not getting sore the next day.
Mm.
And it's pretty easy.
Regarding exercise choice, so you've been talking about squats. So regarding strength, would you recommend keeping the exercises big, like a deadlift, like picking something up, or squatting, or pushing like a bench press, or would you recommend that more so over the smaller exercises like a bicep curl or a tricep extension? Because the ladies that
Oh, I
like to
don't,
get their
yeah, I
triceps
don't,
out
no,
and
it doesn't work. It's
so
a,
you like
it's a
the big
gimmick.
exercises, right?
I like training the whole body for strength.
Mm.
We want to train all the muscles, partly because when we train all the muscles, we're also training the bones.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't want to isolate some, thinking the excess body fat's going to disappear. We're not doing that.
Right. Because if someone wants
Um,
to tone up their triceps, it's not really about the muscle itself, it's
yeah,
about the body
yeah. I
fat.
mean, people, I think in the book I talk about people wanting to look cool.
Mm.
Okay, you want to look cool, and you want to do push-ups so that your pectoral muscles get a little firmer, and it looks like that's something different, but you'll be sore from that.
Mm.
And if you're getting sore from any exercise, you've got to be careful the next day, because you have to recover from that soreness. So mm, you may want that to be a rest day. So now you're not going to run, you're not going to walk, you're not going to do anything.
Mm.
You're going to rest. I, I don't like resting either.
That's good. You're like, don't really like the sound of rest.
So, exercise in a way that is natural and healthy, where you don't require the rest.
Mm.
There's
That's,
going to be exceptions where you're, like when you ran your 10K, you needed rest for the 2, 3 days after that.
mm.
Um, that's just, but those are exceptions.
So
But day to day,
running, yeah.
you should be able to be physically active to develop your endurance and develop your strength, strong bones and muscles, and do it every day if you want.
Mm. It's so interesting. So you deliver once again, Phil, because um, I know that so women are told, and we know that we don't have as much testosterone as men. So when we train in the gym, our muscles won't get as big as a man. Like, come on. But it is interesting though, because when you say, well, if you train hypertrophy, if you fatigue, multiple exercises, DOMS, delayed soreness, then your muscles are going to get bigger. So surely that applies to a woman as well, like in a small
It
sense. So she
does,
should be
yes.
strength training. Like she should, if she wants to not get that, if she doesn't want to
A,
feel bigger
a
than she
lot
is.
of women who do strength training in the way we're discussing here can become stronger than a lot of men.
Wow. That's a reason to do it.
Yes, it's a reason to do it. And it's not just about testosterone. You have to understand that the testosterone thing is an issue. I call it a problem. It is a problem. Uh, but the whole world of sports evolved because of men with a lot of testosterone. So it appears when we look around at what sports are being done, you know, men are superior. Wait, but men made up these sports because they're good at it. If women made up the sports, we'd have a whole world where women were better than men. So, and I want to emphasize something, and I keep looking around because I was going to bring my ergometer in, and I think it's in the other room. But if you go to the gym or if you go to uh, your physical therapist's office, or I mean, this was a standard piece of equipment in a lot of doctors' offices, even general practitioners. They would have an ergometer. It's something you squeeze and it measures a certain amount of strength. And they've gotten out of fashion because of high tech. You know, these are not high tech enough. Well, they're digital now, but they're still just basically a gadget. You squeeze. Um, it it measures strength, and the reason it's important and valuable is because the grip strength reflects full body strength. So if you want to know how your full body muscles and bones are doing from a strength standpoint, find somebody with an ergometer and test yourself. And there's no normal because everyone's a little different, but um, you know, look to see what scores other people are getting. You know, if you're a mother and you've got an 18-year-old son, compare your strength to his. Or if your 18-year-old daughter um, is uh, is much stronger than you, that's a problem.
So are you
We
saying
do
that
get
regardless of age, we should be
well,
similar?
we should be somewhat similar. Um, when we are 50, 60, 70, and 80, we should still be strong enough, and men are going to be a little stronger because they do have testosterone, um, but not a lot.
Hmm.
Like I said, for women who really develop strength this way, they will be stronger than many women, many men. And that's only because so many men are weak.
Well, you said it is an epidemic of weakness,
It's
and it's
really,
because
really
they're
terrible.
trained because a lot of men don't train strength. They want to be big.
They either
So,
don't, yes, they don't train for true strength. They train for muscle size and, it's a macho thing.
mm,
It's a social thing. You go to the gym, you
yeah.
lift these weights. It's cool. You're doing the bicep machine and the lat. Come on.
So
Um,
really, a
that's
strength.
social. That's not
So
physical
really,
fitness.
a strength exercise session. So I'm kind of picturing someone either at home or in a gym setting. So really, they walk in there, they warm up first, then they pack on the weights, and they do a 6 reps, no screaming, no kind of Just kind of taking it in their stride.
Well,
And
there's a
then
lot of grunting going on,
okay,
first of all.
okay. So that well, I suppose when you become more advanced and the weights do become heavier and heavier. But then there's a lot of kind of not waiting, but there's a lot of kind of marinating then. So there's a lot of, you finish the set and then you kind of, looking around, maybe checking your phone. Like there's a lot of it's a kind of like an easygoing session. Like, and you're just going from exercise to exercise. How many exercises is in a typical strength session, would you say?
Typical for who?
So just for an average person going into the gym, like how many
Oh, the gym.
exercises
See, this
in the
is the problem,
session?
is you
Right.
can't do what I'm suggesting in a gym because they don't want you waiting 3 minutes.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got to keep moving. We got to
Mm.
get people in and out. You do the workout, you keep going around the circuit. Maybe it's 10 machines,
Okay.
12, who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
Maybe you're doing free weights and you do dumbbells and barbells. And
Do you like machines?
I hate machines
Okay.
because they force you to
Yeah.
move in a
Mm.
certain way.
Yes.
How do you know your body wants to move that way?
Yeah.
If you think we're all the same, you're wrong.
Mm.
And you see that when you do human dissection, you realize how different every human body is.
Mm.
It's not dramatically different, but it's significantly the joints, the muscles, where they attach. So if you put your hand, your arm, or you're sitting in a certain position, you're forced to contract muscles and move in a way that the machine wants you to move, not the way your brain wants you to move.
Are
So
you
I don't like that.
are you a fan of eccentric training? So that's a classic strength um, type of training system where, let's say, she's learning to do a pull up, she'll jump up and then slowly lower herself down. And then that's supposed to help her, work towards doing one full pull up, let's say. Are you a fan of eccentric training?
If your goal is to enter a pull-up competition, sure.
So I'll take that as
Let's
a
see a
no.
raise of hands. How many people are going to enter the
You're not into eccentric training.
there's so much hype. I mean, you think there's
Okay,
hype
okay.
in the running community. There's, as you know, if you've been to a gym, you may not realize that a lot of what you're encountering is hype. It's hype. And,
Mm.
you know, I don't want to trash the gyms. There's some good gyms around. I know people who are doing things
So, because
correctly.
my husband, he runs a gym. He's the founder
Oh,
of one. So I'm
okay.
I'm there often, and I'm thinking a lot of the women in the gym. To be honest, when I'm talking, I'm just picturing them in the gym, and
Okay. Well, now
yeah.
you have a good class you can start teaching.
Mm.
It's really, really quite simple. Um, and if you do it in a class, people will accept it because now that you got that social component. If you say, read this book and then do these workouts, you're going to feel funny in a gym. You're going to feel funny standing there for 3 minutes
Mm.
when you could be doing something else. You could be walking on the treadmill slow for 3 minutes. That would be okay. But
Okay.
you can't do another lift, and now you're taking up room in the gym. You're taking up that barbell, whatever. I don't know,
Yeah.
depending on the kind of gym it is. But um, um, how much more convenient can it get when you have a weight on the floor of your living room or on a table or somewhere, and I work from home now. All my work is here. So I have a weight and I'll pick it up. Uh, I like pacing when I write. I'll write a paragraph and I'll start thinking and then I'll start pacing. And if I'm over by the weight, I'll lift it up and do 6 squats.
I love that.
So, how much more convenient is that for people than going to the gym? It's not social. If you need sociability, go out for a glass of wine at night, or I don't know.
I think a nice mix of the two it would be nice because I have some weights here and sometimes I lift them if I can't be bothered to make the journey into the gym. But I think yeah, it's definitely handy to have something in the house for sure. So if anyone wants to, increase their strength, then maybe investing in some weights is a good idea.